I don't know. My phone's going on.
Perfect timing. That's to let the fans know that this is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV on YouTube with one of the Hannibal TV's favorite guests, WCW legend, almost WCW champion, UFC legend, MMA legend, Tank Abbott. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm doing good. It's Christmas time of year, man. Happy or Merry Christmas. I hope you're having a good
Yes,
time. Yeah,
doing great.
good, 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 good.
Better than when I was talking to you last Christmas. I still have my foot injury, so I'm. It's great to be back in the gym for both of us. You're back in the gym too lately.
Yeah, I've been still working out, doing my thing. Slowly but surely, it's coming back.
Yeah, after a liver and kidney transplant, you're back to benching 275, which is pretty good.
I was doing that for fours. I got 315 up, so I'm in the 300s now. So
That's pretty good. That's way better than most people can do.
yeah, well, it's all relative. It's what my best was 625, so 315. That's what 5 pounds more than half of my way there. So, but I'm getting old, and I'm happy with that. But I think bigger numbers are in the horizon.
Yeah, and speaking of that big 625-pound bench press, I think I found it on here. I'll share it for the fans
Uh
that
huh.
that haven't seen it. Hold on a second here. I'll put it up. You can. I think they can still hear you with it playing. Let me.
Yeah, that's me right there. I guess they needed to kill some time, and I had no plans on working out while I was there. It was kind of like I was doing some commentary actually, and that was pretty easy right there. I think I could have got a double, but um, I just did that to get it on tape because everybody runs around and says they do 600 pounds and all that kind of stuff. That's completely lifetime, 100% natural right there. I'll take a lie detector test. I'll do anything you want to. I take tests, everything. I'm telling you, it's 100% natural.
Was Joe Rogan questioning that?
No, I don't think so. But I think he was being evasive about steroids, and for I don't know what reason. But I brought it up, and it was just kind of like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But everybody. I saw it just the other day on a Jackson thing that Ken Shamrock said everybody from the old days took steroids because he did. I've never taken steroids, Ken, and you don't need to speak for me because I don't need to take steroids. Never have, never will. Just makes me wonder why all these guys, and they know who they are. I mean, it's not hard to figure out when these guys walk around with these big sagittal crests and caveman heads and faces if they've taken them. Uh, it's up to them. They know that it's not really them, and they took steroids, and I'd like to see how they are when that's not affecting their fighting abilities, and see how that would turn out with them, with myself.
Do you believe this story that Ken Shamrock told Rick Bassman that he fought on E once, the drug E at one of the UFCs?
Oh, if he said it, why would I have any reason to not believe it? But these guys, everybody, you don't want to get me started. Maybe you do about all these guys. They're a bunch of narcissistic yahoos that want to play tough guy for some reason. I don't know, but I don't know why you would fight on E. other than you're in for a good time, I guess. But uh,
Yeah, it
what?
seems like it wouldn't necessarily be beneficial. I've actually never done that, but I hear it's one of the ones that might get your heart rate up higher, and in a real fight, you wouldn't necessarily want that, I would
Well,
think.
I've taken E for psychotropic reasons, and yeah, I don't think that would work out too well for you in the dosage that I used to play around with back in the day. It was, yeah, not something that I would go, well, I want to go get in a fight and see how that goes. Was not something um, that would be beneficial to you by any means. But
Apparently, Macho Man was on it when he got in that fight with Hawk at the Kid Rock concert, according to his girlfriend at the time, Gorgeous George. Did you ever meet her?
I think I did, but I don't remember it. There was everybody has their little groups that they hang out with, and the girls hung out with their own little group and everything else. But yeah, no, and Macho was there, and he was cool. Mach, he was always like, I don't know, one bad. I used to not like a couple people out of my whole professional wrestling tour, I guess, or my stint in WCW was great. It was a great time, and everyone there were cool. And it wasn't about who's a tough guy or anything like that. It was all just business and having fun, and I had a lot of fun. That's a, talk about athletic rock star. That's what you live, man. I'm telling you, it was
Out
very.
of all the, I know you weren't known for messing around with the girls backstage, but there were so many beautiful ones in WCW. Kimberly Page, Macho Man's ex, all those Nitro girls, Tori Wilson, Stacy Keebler. Was there any that like stood out to you as like being better than the rest in person in those days?
Not really. They were just like that echelon or that level of a female, and it was just like I'm not really into women that think they're all that in a bag of chips. So I really didn't have time for them. But nothing. I went, wow, that chick is hot. No one that I can think of that I have a thought like that for or did.
Did you happen to be there when Steiner got in that fight with DDP, supposedly because Steiner thought Kimberly was had too much of an attitude or something at the time?
Um, I might have been there. If it took place, then I think I would have heard about it. It would have been something that I think I wouldn't forget, or I would forget. Um, no, so I probably wasn't there, but Scott was, doing his thing. All those guys are all cool people by themselves, and everything was great with them. Scott was a really cool guy. DDP was a cool guy. Everybody was cool. And, it wasn't about, oh, you really want to fight. And if they did, I don't think they would want to do it with me because it just wouldn't be wise.
No, but I don't know if you want to come clean about it or not, but a lot of people suspect the Rick Steiner thing that you did with him, which you both insist was a shoot. Remember when you got in that thing in WCW? Kevin Sullivan says it was a shoot too, where he sent Rick out to confront you.
I imagine that the punch that he hit me with was real, but no one hits me like that and doesn't receive retribution. And I don't think he received any retribution. So you can connect the dots.
Yeah, I think you accidentally did punch Scott in later years, though.
Well, yeah, I did. I split his lip open, but that was an accident. And the next day I saw him in catering and I said, hey, man, because, I didn't want people walking around because, how you don't know or you do, but stories get started. Oh, he hurts people and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't want that to take hold. So I went to Scott and I said, hey, man, when your brother was holding you and I was doing my punch, he kind of moved you in a little bit into range. And that's why the punch connected. And Scott was really cool and just said, hey, it was an accident, no big deal. And I got right on. And that's how it was left.
Yeah, there is a big thing back there about the whole hurting people's stuff. But you didn't you rough up Conan or something once, or one of the I forget who it was. Maybe it was Laparca. But those guys
No,
were dispensable at that time.
well, the funny thing about when I was matched up against La Parca, I was like, wow, because us green is all gets out, and so I went up to Rick and I said, hey, Rick, I'm gonna fight La Parca here, and I don't know what do you think I should do? And he looked at me and goes, Who you fighting? I go, La Parca. And he goes, kill him. Just fucking kill him. And so I took that as the green light to uh, put on a good match. And La Parca did a great job.
And it was a very good match. What do you think nowadays? I know you don't watch wrestling. Probably this is one of the reasons. All this lucha stuff, it seems like more than ever, and all this flips and leg slapping in every match. I know you actually liked Andre the Giant as a wrestler, or I know Sally did,
Oh,
but like
yeah.
it seemed like they didn't have to do all that in the past.
Yeah, yeah. It was more of kind of like the UFC, right? It was more about fighting, not weight classes and that kind of stuff. I mean, and so uh, they put my matches together where it was more like a fighting scene, and yeah, the flying around. Once they got to 3 count, and you know, never got followed through because the Sinatra people put a squash on it. I was going to be Tank Sinatra, and I was going to steal their record contract, and I was going to take over WCW as Tank Sinatra, and actually filmed a commercial in a tuxedo. It was all down, and then the Sinatra people stepped on me, or not me, but on the whole project, and so that kind of is why 3 count and that whole thing kind of went away. But that
Someone's asking if you like dancing with 3 count. I know you did. One thing I'll just say about that, people always like to throw that in there as if that was horrible, like some of the more smart markers types, but
yeah,
people liked it. I remember like being in high school then, and
yeah,
the kids knew about it and they thought it was funny because they knew you from UFC and they're like, "Oh, this is hilarious."
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I one of the funnest times I had, and that was I never wrestled drunk ever, um, but twice, and so I guess ever doesn't really work. But I can count the 2 times I was drunk when I wrestled, and one was with Barbarian. That's because I missed a flight in Miami with some other people from the tour, and we took a rent a car up to the middle of the state can't remember where it was, but it was the middle of the state, and I succumbed to peer pressure and was drinking on the ride up. And so I got at the arena, I got out, walked straight into the ring with a buzz, and wrestled with the Barbarian. But I was in Canada. I think it was British Columbia the other time, and once you turn yourself in, you had to be there at noon, and then you have to sit around just in case you're going to shoot a vignette or anything like that. What's going down with the show? And I was doing something where I was introducing 3 count, but I walked out to the back, the loading docks and all that, and I hear this something in the background, like a horse race going down. And it was one of those areas where the arena's in the parking lot, and there's a horse track and like a soccer field kind of thing. I asked the guy that was working at the door there, I go, what the hell's that? He goes, oh, it's the horse races. I had nothing to do. So I walked over there, and the whole crowd was around me, and we had a good time for a couple hours till the show started. And I walked over there 3 count and ended up just tearing down the house, having fun. And that was one of my funner times with 3 count. Uh, they had they had a shirt with their little 3 circles on the front, and one of the stage guys thought it'd be funny to cut the circles out around my nipples, and I was not in the mindset to say no. I said, "Hey, go ahead." So if you ever see that tape, you can see that the nipples are cut out on the 3 count shirt.
You would have a viral video if that was the cell phone camera days of you at the horse track
Yeah.
drinking with the wrestling fans before the show.
Oh, absolutely. Is there probably about 20, 30 people sitting all around me. We're all betting on the horses, having a great time.
Were they buying you the drinks at least?
Oh, absolutely. We were having a party. It was the pre-party to the show. It was a good time. I'm telling you, man, I had nothing but a great. It was like fantasy world, man. He was like, "What is your dream job? What do you want to do?" And other than real fighting and all that, going and doing show business basically uh, was what went down, and I made the most of it. I'm sure. I'm sure it expedited my liver problems, but looking back on it, oh well, what you gonna do?
Well, I hope you could maybe again wrestle one day if you keep putting these bench presses up. Let's take a look at your most recent bench press video right now for the fans so
Yeah.
they can see you. Hey, that's pretty good. And that's a good reminder about you and the Smiths that a lot of fans, you have the most popular video I did of you was the one at your house there in person. And there's a picture of you with the Smiths music video in the background. And a lot of people ask why. It's because you're a big fan. So I assume you chose that.
I did choose that, yeah. And that song is kind of has a special meaning uh, for me. Um, when I was dying on my death chair, waiting to die, if you listen to the words, it's about tomorrow when you die, will you still be human, kind of thing. And I used to listen to that over and over and over. I lived it, but I'm here now, so it's all
You know
good.
what you need is one of these rich Saudi Arabia princes to get a fight between you and Don Fry that you both make millions on. And I'm sure the fans would love to see it, and seeing you bench that definitely makes me think you could get back in there.
Yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I don't know if old Don is very mobile nowadays. I don't know. I know he's having some problems with his back, so that wouldn't bode too well for him to step in there with somebody that could lay some wood on his ass.
I would honestly rather see that than any of the current UFC fighters, just because for some reason, it's the same as wrestlers these days, other than like McGregor. And I know John Jones is great. They just don't have like the personalities of your era where I can really be entertained by them more than just in the ring and actually want to see the fights because they're so entertaining outside the ring, like you
Yeah,
were.
yeah, and the old UFC compared to the new UFC is completely different. It it, Dana's done a great job, made a sport out of it and the whole 9 yards. But back in the day, it was who's badass and who wants to kick some ass, not little guys fighting other little guys. That I mean, let's face it, they're all small people, and he's done a hell of a job with that. I guess that's who you're pushing your show to, a bunch of little guys that want to be tough. But um, I don't know. It's kind of boring to me. Like when I could beat you up when I was a freshman in high school, I want to watch that. You know what I mean? So, and then there's probably whatever. There's all these new kids think they got a new spin on the wheel, like they invented something. But the wheel's been around for a long time. It's been around a lot longer than I was around. So, been around, and I'm pretty much started this whole show. And the the little whatever they fight their guys. It's more of a sport now. It's not really a mindset. So, and the people that had that mindset back in the days were a little bit different.
I know you don't follow the current news at all, but I mean, you may have heard about these McGregor. I guess she never filed criminal charges against him, and I guess she accused another guy of also raping her. The other guy was let off. McGregor was found civilly liable, and I guess Dana White was asked last weekend if he would be allowed to fight, and he basically alluded that he'd still be able to fight next year. Do you think that's all right? Do you have any opinion on that case? I find it a little weird how she can not tell the truth about one person and tell the truth
uh,
about another. It's weird.
uh, Absolutely, and you can't. Who knows? I to me he's innocent. So but who am I? And who was there? And the whole 9 yards. It's just it smells. That's all you can say. And well, I guess live and learn.
This guy has put the question up about 5 times, so I'll ask it to you. He
Mm-hmm.
wants to know that if you used to rip yellow page telephone books in half, and
Yeah,
tattoos in relationship with Big Al. I didn't know you had any tattoos.
just on my legs, um, and nothing to do with Big Al. And yeah, I used to rip phone books in half. It's a trick. It's not really a strength thing.
You're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to do another video
I wouldn't be a
showing it for
good.
your Instagram. What
Yeah,
is your Instagram? Tank Abbott on Instagram, by the way, for people that want to follow his journey.
I was gonna say kayfabe on the phone book. Don't tell them how it's done.
Yeah, well, it's good to see you're putting all those positive videos out there. Someone says the McGregor thing looked like a payday. A
Yeah,
lot
it
of
sounds like it.
someone says they wouldn't mess with you now after seeing you bench press, liver problems or not. This guy says MMA is a sport now. It's all science and technique. The charisma is gone.
Yeah, but it's not science and technique. It's so funny. Like I said, these kids think they invented the wheel or put a new spin on the wheel. Fighting's been around forever, man. Do you think wrestling's changed? I mean, like I said, it's fighters' fortitude, and I might probably get some heat for this, but that's why all these pussies go and do jujitsu because there's no pain involved. You can slap around or you slap the mat, whatever. And don't get me wrong, a tough guy doing jujitsu, it works just like a boxer can hit you and knock you out. But it's like, are you kidding me? These It's not science. You let me tell you something. If you want to go spend your money and go to a jujitsu class and think you can kick ass, just go buy a gun and walk around with a gun because that will be much more effective. Because you get yourself in a fight, there's things that you can't measure yourself. You can't say, if you're a pussy, you're a fucking pussy. You're not just because all these rich guys, man. Why they go sign up with all the guys that know everything that you can think of and be a tough guy? Because you can't. You can't buy toughness. And
That's 100% right. From all my years bouncing, I 100% agree with you on that.
yeah, and so these guys that do all this stuff, just because you done jujitsu doesn't make you tough. In fact, if you think that way, you're going to get hurt. And trust me, I've been in a lot of street fights, a lot of altercations in the hundreds. Think about that. And then all these clowns out there walk around all puffed up, half of them are all sauced up and thinking they're all tough guys because it makes you think that way. I used to love when I was younger. I used to love to fight those big roid heads. You walk right up to them, and they're all about puffery and all this kind of stuff. Till you punch them in the face and go, "Yeah, this is for real. It's gonna guess what? I'm gonna be tap dancing on your head in a little bit." And that's usually what happened.
I think you coined a term there, puffery. But for those jujitsu guys too, a lot of them that have never dealt with neck cranks, I know this from jumping into these gyms. If you're just an amateur wrestler and know how to do neck cranks, it doesn't matter what belt they are. I'm sure if you're like eighth degree, it might make a difference. But those guys will be like, "You cheated. You used a neck crank." It's like
Or
this
you
shouldn't be rules.
slap the mat and say, "Oh, stop! You're hurting me." That's when it starts, and it's all selling all this BS. Like, oh, I learned this. I'm going to be a tough guy. No, no, you're not. You're not going to be a tough guy. Why? Just because you learn something? That's where Joe Rogan got the off ramp and said, okay, I don't think I need to go down this route. It's called fighter's fortitude. And that's when, like, someone's biting you or sticking a thumb in your eye, you fold up shop and cry for your mommy, or you fucking pull out of it and stick your thumb in their eye. That that's what makes a difference between a fighter. Not if you know how to do a guillotine choke.
100%. Reminds me of George Chuvalo, the way you're describing that. I'm sure he wasn't the most technical either, but he had the fighter's fortitude.
And then about the boxer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and when you get punched, just say boxing because it's pretty much a one-dimensional sport. Um, you get guess what? You know, it was like a little fad, like when Tyson was like the baddest man on the planet, or they tried to sell that. You know, most people bought it, but uh, if you know anything about fighting, before Ultimate Fighting ever came out, and after the 5 shows that were just basically jujitsu commercials, um, after all that, they it's like it's all about being tough, and you're not just because you can learn how to twist a toe, or and then but before that it was learning how to box. All these executives just go around and try to say that they're tough, and I go to the boxing gym every day and put in 8 rounds of this and that. Yeah, and I've been in serious boxing gyms like you see out of Rocky uh, for a long time. And after every Tyson fight, the whole gym would be full of big guys and uh, uh, guys with suits and that kind of stuff, and they're all tough for the first 4 to 6 weeks while they're punching a bag, and they all get into wrapping their hands and the whole science of it, or lack for a better word there. But um, and then it's time to spar. They get in there for 1 round, 2 rounds, and they're like, okay, I've had enough. And then you never see them again. And that's just when it starts. And you know what? It didn't just, back in the day, it didn't stop with guys that were CEOs and guys that own their own businesses, all the kind of stuff, like money guys trying to get their cred for being tough, that kind of thing. It guys, and I've been in wrestling rooms since I've been 8 years old, and so I giggle when these clowns that are on comments and stuff and talk about wrestling. I've wrestled with world champions, trained with them for 5 weeks. I've wrestled with national Division I champions. I guarantee you, I don't going to talk out of school or gym talk, but I guarantee you they won't tell you that I'm a slouch. And these guys go in there, and wrestlers, they go, oh, I want to fight. And you take them into the boxing gym and you go, okay, get in there and spar. You're in shape. And, try to show them how to hold their hands and whatever. And then a skinny little Mexican guy get in there and tattoo their face. And they're like, oh, fuck this. I don't know how to do this. In fact, 2 of my friends both did that. And I was like, no, you got to bite the bullet and eat the pain and fight through that. And they ended up doing it. Both of them fought in the UFC. One's really famous, infamous, for getting his head racked in by you ever see the guy that drops the elbow on him?
Yeah, Gary Goodridge there.
Yeah, the guy that he did that to was Paul Herrera.
Yeah.
That was he's a good
People
fighter.
hated him. Like, by the way, you were on with him on here. You probably get your podcast confused. You had him on. He got so much heel heat in the comments. People
Yeah,
really don't like him. He seems like a great guy though, your type of guy, but people really
yeah,
don't
no,
like him for whatever reason.
yeah, no, he is a good guy. I never saw the comments on that, right? But he is a good guy. He fought in the same tournament that Fry fought in. The little guys. against the big guys. And I'm sure if Paul was to do the same supplement program that Fry probably did, that makes his head look like a caveman, uh, he would he would stretch old Fry right out. You know, he wrestled at Nebraska, and he's a pretty tough guy. But he's just a little, you know, he's like 190, 200 pounds, and that's how Fry and all those guys were, all little midgets.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you because I've heard some people talk about this about Fry, that he's kind of different personality off and on quote unquote supplements or whatever you want to call it. Do you think he would have done as good or had the same ferociousness had he not been supplementing like he was, at least in Pride, and probably is he even said it
I
actually when I interviewed him.
I think I don't know, but I'm assuming that he or Severin has admitted that he has taken steroids. If not, oh well, I'm confused. But
Sorry, Fry admitted. Severin has never admitted he took steroids.
right now,
Fry has admitted it.
Severin admitted it about Fry, saying, "Oh yeah, Dan or whatever his name is, Don did it, but I've never done it." And I do believe that Severin's never done it. You can tell by the way he looks. Anyways, but yeah, hell yeah, those guys are all clowns. They walk. It's amusing. Well, you know, if he wants to walk around and act like that, God bless him.
Are they still doing their podcast? Do you know? I haven't heard much in a
I
while.
obviously I don't think I would be watching, but I,
I'll tell
every
you one funny story about Dan Severn. You'll find this funny. You may have known I was just in Albany at a Hall of Fame thing
uh,
with Dan, and I meet him there, and he's telling me all about how he's against transgenders and anti-transgenders and all this. And he was on a show where there was a transgender wrestler, the main thing of the poster of the
yeah,
show, and I don't even think he was right around the person. I don't even think he realized the person was transgender. I just found that hilarious that like he was.
I can see the humor in that, and being that it's Dan, it's even funnier. Um, but yeah, no, whatever. Dan is Dan, whatever.
Yeah, and they do that topic to death. So I like them both. I mean, I'd love to get Don with you. I did pull off Dan with you. I won't give up on that just yet. But Mike's bringing up Tito Ortiz. He's not really even worth talking about anymore because they don't. He's not really in the news anymore. What do you think happened to him? I don't
Um,
mind. I never had issues with him. I know you did, but he seems to have fell off the radar.
well, I've been ever since. Okay, Paul Herrera found Tito as a body for me to throw around because he was uh, junior college state champion, and he was big boned, and so he's. Everybody gave me a bunch of heat, like I was jealous of the guy or something like that. I was off in wrestling world. I didn't give a rat's ass about the UFC or anything about it. Didn't even know about it. And he was getting over with what the hell's his name, Chuck Liddell, and they were knocking it out of the park. And you know, good for them. But I would go, man, you guys don't understand. That guy is a bad person. He's a dipshit, and he's a moron, and everybody would just tout him. Oh, he's. I'm going. Are we talking about the same guy? And anyways, it took forever, but finally, he's like the dumbest guy in MMA, and that's a pretty shallow pool. I mean, he's you know. Anyways, so I do believe that he's disappeared, and rightfully so. I guess he's got a cantina down in Florida. I'm sure he's knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, because there was the big thing when he was in council or something in Huntington Beach, and then I
Uh,
guess he moved and disappeared after that, pretty much.
well, they ran him out of town. They found out what an idiot he was. He was living in the harbor there, the Huntington Harbor. For the people who don't know what it is, it's like a residential harbor there. And he had his girlfriend, the porno chick, buy a house in there, and he would run around and tell everybody it was his. It was actually Jenna Jameson's house, and that was coming to an end since they split up, and he had kids with her, and so he couldn't hang on to that house, so he had to move. And I think he ended up moving to Florida. And oh well, good luck to that dumb guy.
I know you're pretty open as far as sexuality, but would you ever be, and I'm not holding this against anyone, but would you ever be able to be with someone that's like, how was your day at work, honey? After she's just done a job like that. I personally wouldn't be able to.
Oh, no, I don't think so. There's too many fish in the sea. But personality wise, why do you want to be with somebody like that, anyways? I don't care how hot she is. I mean, it's not about like who can score at my age, anyways. Physical beauty. What my wife is awesome, beautiful, great woman, but she's also very cool and trustworthy and my best friend. So there's no.
Yeah, it's not like Ric Flair's last wife, Wendy Barlow, who seemed like an absolute bitch. But yeah, Sally's great. You lucked out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not about like I said, it's not about conquering. Listen, man, I was single, and like I said, I lived a athletic rock star life. I was knocking it out of the park, man. I had a great time, and I'm off to enjoying life with a partner and not anything else.
Now, I know, speaking of Sally, I'm sure she knows all about this. I don't know about you, but someone's asking you about the drones that are all over New Jersey, at least right now. Supposedly there was 39 incursions last night alone, and they're happening in other places too. What are your thoughts on what these things are?
I don't have yeah, I don't like it. You think about it, you could, with Biden behind the wheel, not to get political here, but man, just like the Chinese balloon that blew over the top, you know what I mean? What, he's just gonna let that happen? I don't. I live way out in the middle of the desert, and so I had a drone flying over my house, an adjacent property. The realtor was flying over the property, and I got a little mad. Like, they'll be flying over my property. So I went and got my rifle, and then um, wisdom and smarts took over, and I didn't follow that anymore. I'm sidetracked because my battery sign's coming on. I have to call. Hey, Sally, the battery's going low here. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got to plug it in.
Well, that's good
Anyways,
timing because we were just talking about her. She could make a cameo.
yeah, there's a plug right here. Uh,
Do you think for the drones that they keep saying, while there's no immediate threat, do you think we should be like, okay, well, they're hovering above us. Let's just not worry. They haven't done anything yet. Let's just get used to these things being here. It's
so,
bizarre.
Sally heard you and chimed in. They're lying. I,
Yeah.
I concur.
There's people saying they're either our own military, China, or something else, but apparently they're saying Russia probably doesn't have the money to pull something like this off with how many there are.
Yeah, and God knows, it could be anything. Like how about the thing? The other news, the guy got off for choking that guy with the rear naked choke. That on the subway. And what else was important today? So
Have you
you,
seen they're using rear naked chokes in hockey now, by the way? What do you think of that? That they're taking hockey fights now to submission? Not in NHL, but the American Hockey League. It seems a little bizarre.
well, I did a little thing with I don't know. He was some guy from the Chicago team. He was an enforcer. I mean, it was a WCW thing. Bob Pruber or something like that. And they were asking me, "What do you?"
Yes, hold on. Just trying to charge this. Keep
She's
talking.
she's plugging stuff in here.
Hold on, Dad.
Give everybody a wave, Sally, because Tank just put you over big time.
Oh boy. Okay. You know I don't like this. Hello, everyone. Okay, that's about it.
Very good. And I did mention the other day when I was talking about Andre the Giant that you're his biggest fan. So
Absolutely.
there you go.
Since I was a little girl. Oh,
That's a
funny.
great story.
I loved Andre. My grandmother was a big wrestling fan, and she got me started to watch it when I was young.
What's your favorite wrestling match of Tank's? I got to ask you that before you go. You must have a favorite.
Um,
Put something.
I don't know. Maybe probably Sid because it was such a. I don't know because it was for the world championship. Maybe the Sid one, the Sid match. But
Yeah, that's the one he was supposed to win apparently, but the politics got the better of them.
Yeah, and I personally love the 3 count whole thing. I think it's so much fun.
Yeah, no, I was the champ all the way to 5 minutes before.
Could you tell us that? Because I don't think you ever have gone into that much detail about that. Of course, Sid, rest in peace. I mean, he kept it a secret. He was dying, I guess.
I know.
Yeah, well, I guess around wrestling people, anyways.
Yeah, no. So Sid was cool.
So sad.
Sid was the first guy to say something to me that was meaningful, and that was we were in Washington, and my guys were there, and Eric had his plans. I don't know exactly what they were, but I don't even remember. I think we showed up there, but Sid was in the back, and he was all well proportioned. He was huge, and he had his usual stuff on, and he was talking to one of my friends, and he spread his legs open, and that sounds bad, but he put his hands on his knees, and so he'd be face to face with my friend, and he's talking to him, and going, yeah, 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 and I was looking over, going, holy Jesus, that guy's huge. Anyway, so then he comes over, he talks to me, and he's all, so you're going to be working here, huh? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, he goes, let me tell you something. He goes, don't say anything about anything to anyone because it's none of their business, and everybody's going to try to get up in your stuff, and you just tell them, no, I don't got anything to say. And didn't really take it in, didn't understand what he was talking about until time went on. And I was like, oh, he goes, you got guys here that are starving. They're on the road all the time. And he goes, they don't need to know your business. And I'm like, okay. And it turned out to be a very valuable lesson not to be flapping my gums about things. And I didn't.
And what do you think of his passing? When was the last time you saw him? Would it have been WCW?
I saw him at a autograph signing, and Sally took some pictures with him. And yeah, no, Sid's always been cool. From the get go. And the last time I saw him, he's like, "Good to see you." And, everybody's kind of taken aback, like, "Is this guy alive? Don't want to touch him. He's gonna fall over and die." And so, but he was like, saying, "Good luck to you, whatever." He was all good.
Yeah,
Seemed
good
healthy.
guy. Good
Yeah,
guy.
he seemed healthy.
He did. It was so weird, but whatever. We will try not to get down. I think this is the guy you wrestled, Bob Pubert,
Yeah, that would be me, and
or
that's me.
Probert. I'll
Yeah,
call him Pubert since he's
yeah,
an enemy
Probert.
of yours.
Well, no, so yeah, the people would say to me, "Oh, yeah, just think about it. You play hockey," and I'm like, going, "Are you talking about putting razor blades on the end of my feet and then giving me a stick? And you want me to be an enforcer? I don't think that's going to work out too well for other people, because I can imagine I could do some damage with a hockey stick."
Did you pile drive him?
Oh, did I lose you?
Did you pile drive him? Can you see me now?
Yeah, I can see you now. No, the owner of the team was, um, I think I roughed up the owner of the team, and he came to save the owner of the team. It was at the
Was he the security guy?
he wasn't bad. A lot of people that had heat with him. He would do some really weird stuff, like search people's cars, and maybe he had heat with whoever he was dropping heat on. But man, I'm telling you, I took Sid's advice to heart, and I stayed away from everybody, everyone.
Somebody wants to know your top 5 fighters not named Tank.
Oh wow! I don't. I've said Fedor before it was cool. That guy has got amazing hips. Um, you know, his balance is unbelievable, and that's the only one really that I could think of, really. Because everybody I fought could have, if win or lose, I could have won or I could have lost, and then we could have fought the next day. And this is true. I don't know how many guys would do it. I would, but when you get to that level of fighting, should have to be the best of 5 fights, and you can fight every night, because you can get clipped by a good shot. You make a mistake, anything could happen where it affects the fight, which is not really a good indicator of how well you can fight. Um, so that being that, all these guys are, just anybody could beat anybody. I think that's pretty much known. It's just a matter of a certain level you get to. At least back in the day, there was like Dana pushes that John Jones guy as like the best of all time, and but like that guy with the other people that beat him, I'm not for sure. I think Chael beat him. I don't know. Don't quote me on this. Be wrong.
John Jones? I
Yeah.
think that may have been the disqualification. I'll look it up. He was
Uh,
disqualified for one, but other than that, but it's strange because he's not a draw. Like he might be a decent draw, but for a supposed greatest fighter of all time,
yeah.
more people were talking about the Tyson fight against Jake Paul than John Jones versus Stipe. And it didn't seem like the public was really buzzing about John Jones's last fight.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I've never seen him fight. So I don't know. I don't. I who are the big name guys? And I mean, there's what's that? Whatever the guy from Africa or something like that. Big dude.
Matt Hamill is who he lost to by disqualification in 2009 for
Didn't.
using elbows.
Yeah. Well, so that's not really a loss. But
Francis Ngannou, I think, is who
yeah,
you were just mentioning, but I
yeah,
mean, I don't really know because he's had his fight with UFC, and it's not
yeah.
like he was undefeated or anything. And his Saudi Arabia fights haven't got much attention.
Right. Maybe, whatever. These guys are all trying to get money. Back in the day, I'm not a money grubber kind of guy. Say I'm gonna show up and fight, I fight. Back in the day, I'm into relaxing now. Um, but it seems it's so ridiculous. These guys, they all of a sudden they think they're all that in a bag of chips, and they're gonna grind day enough for money and vice versa. Oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and they all end up falling flat on their face. Pretty much isn't UFC's pretty much the standard bearer, and everybody else is trying to knock them off the top there, like Bellator and all that kind of stuff. Where
Yeah,
all
Bellator has almost no buzz now, and I guess the PFL and Jake Paul's
yeah
company,
yeah
that's
PFL.
he's paying people more and stuff, but like they're trying real hard, but those fights aren't anywhere near the UFC's level as far as interest yet.
Oh yeah, Dana's got it going on, and everybody, all these. It goes all the way down. The people like McCartney. He left. I don't know if he left or they asked him to leave, but he went to Bellator. That guy is just an idiot. But he went to Bellator. What's he doing now? Thank God he's not refing
I
anymore.
I have no idea what he's doing. He's kind of fallen off the radar too.
Yeah, because of his behavior, of thinking he's all that in a bag of chips. Like I said, obviously he's right up there with Tito when it comes to people I like or don't like, and that guy's basically just another fool. He's a referee. That's like saying I'm an umpire at a major league baseball game. Who cares? I mean, no one gives a rat's ass who's going, are you ready? Are you ready? If Big John McCartney was anything, he's Big John. Why don't you get in there and fight? Are you too much of a candy ass? Yeah, pussy.
There's a good Saudi Arabia fight for you, you versus John, because that would
Oh,
be a fair fight.
no, it wouldn't be fair. But I fucking knocked the stuffing out of that little bitch. I'm telling you that he would
Put
be
that on the table. If Saudi Arabia paid you guys, would you
absolutely
would you do that? Yeah.
in a heartbeat. That guy, he he's good. I don't know why he's never fought. And the only reason why he's a referee is because he was a student of jujitsu for Gracie, and that's what I called him a corrupt crook because he is corrupt and trying to push jujitsu because his buddies were the UFC guys that started it. It's like jujitsu's all this and that. Jujitsu is not all this and that. Um, Hoist did good because Hoist was tough. I mean, duh. And so Big John, he was a cop in their shop or whatever the dojo things they call it. And they needed somebody to go in there and go, "Are you ready? Are you ready?" Like an umpire. And then everybody gives this guy credit for what? He's nothing. I mean, it'd be like McDonald's, right? You know, they're famous for their food and everything else. And then you have that, they created that group of characters, the Hamburglar and that Ronald McDonald.
And
He's
Grimace, who could forget?
he's like Officer Big Mac, the Big Mac. They call him Officer Big Mac, and like you probably don't even know who he is, and that's what a referee should be. He's a referee. What the hell does he know about fighting? Nothing. That's how to screw people over. He screwed me over with Oleg. Why? Because it was his fight off your back submission guy, and that's exactly what they are trying to push at the time. And then, you know,
Yeah, a guy like that is basically what you're saying for John.
yeah, well, put on Officer Big Mac. That's John, Big John McCartney, Officer Big Mac. But that's about as far as I know of that. And so and then on top of it all, so I called him a corrupt crook on Rogan, I believe, and he got all his panties in a wad, uh, and well, that's the Hamburglar right there.
Yeah, the Hamburglar getting arrested, I guess, but that's the
Yeah,
closest you could get.
exactly. Well, so he had that on. So then he put some bozo kid on there. Guy's still wet behind the ears when there's been a fight in his life. And he's going to talk about fighting. And he brings up Campbell McLaren, who's the biggest treacherous, backstabbing scumbag to the people that used to own it. And he like he's some voice of authority. Oh, Campbell McLaren said this and that. I think he called me a psychopath, which is completely ridiculous. But Big John, when there he is, right there, Officer Big Mac. Anyways, Big John was, what the hell was I talking about? Officer Big Mac threw me for a loop now. I got to get back on track where I was. Big
John
John.
screwing you in the match.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. He should open a bait shop because every time he enters into an argument, he pulls out a red herring fallacy. It's got more red herring than anybody can imagine. They say, "Hey, John, what about the fight?" And he'll go, "I told you the moon is made of cheese." Well, what the hell does that have to do with? We're address the argument at hand. And that is, why did you break up the fight between me and Oleg when you weren't supposed to do anything? Why? Just answer the question. Don't start talking about the moon made of cheese, or uh, Art Davy wears shorts with his tuxedo top. Just stick to the subject. Get off your red herrings and talk like a rational human being. And needless to say, he can't. You should, you know what you should do is invest in a college course. It's called Philosophy 101. And you can figure out what an argument is, a rational argument, and you can steer clear of all the fallacies that you spew out of your mouth. That simple. Anyways, so he was on his podcast. I I think it's called Weighing In with this dumb kid that saw me. Also drinking with, I saw him drinking by himself at the bar. And I'm like, yeah, they make songs about I drink alone. And you get to my age and wisdom, you realize that some of the best times is when you go out drinking by yourself. But from the looks of you, you probably couldn't figure that out. Anyways, that goes down, and then he starts spewing. Not only is he a crook and corrupt, he's a liar, a big ass liar trying to make himself look good, trying to say that I was drinking all the time at UFC fights. Wrong. I was never drinking at the fight. No one ever, even though I got a liver transplant from drinking and the whole 9 yards, no one in the UFC ever saw me drinking. We did a presser. Now I'm thinking about it. We did a presser in Japan, and that was part of the deal. Going out with these Japanese guys and going to karaoke bars and all that, partying. Something like he probably doesn't understand. But for him to run around and say, oh, yeah, he was drunk and he was this and that, flat out lies. And I don't tell lies. I never have. And all the people that ever say I'm full of shit are liars themselves because, and they just, oh, yeah, he just talks shit. I don't talk shit. Don't, you know what I'm saying? Don't be afraid of the truth. I speak the truth. And if you got a problem with the truth, don't hate the messenger, hate the message. And I'm telling you, I never was sitting around drinking with Big John McCartney. He's a liar, a crook, and corrupt. And he's finally got exposed, like you said, just like Tito. And well, what's the other one too? I was on a podcast 10 million zillion years ago when I was still drinking, and they said, "Oh, how would you do against Ronda Rousey?" And I said at the time, "There's no woman in this world that could beat me up." And guess what? Now, after all this trans BS, I think people fucking come to realize that a man of my strength and fighting experience is not going to lose to a woman in a fight.
Not only that, but since then she was exposed pretty badly.
Yeah, she's a real mentally hard woman, isn't she? But I don't
It's
want to talk.
funny though, that doesn't age well. I remember that now. That was a big deal at the time. People actually
Yeah,
thought Ronda Rousey could have beat you with all the hoopla at that time. But now
yeah,
nobody would say that. Nobody.
exactly right. And then everybody thought Tito Ortiz was tough and a smart guy, and no one would say that nowadays. And like I said, don't hate the messenger, hate the message. I speak the truth. I don't talk bullshit. I don't need to get myself over, man. I'm over in my head. That's all that matters. I'm happy. I sit out here in the middle of nowhere. I don't have to do anything but take my 4 dogs for a walk every day. We go for a mile and go to the gym and work out. Yeah, I have 4 dogs now. I got another one from the rescue.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you're helping out those animals. And that goes into Matt's question here. What's your Mount Rushmore of leisure activities? Walking your dogs, I imagine, is one of them.
Yeah, working out. Um, Believe it or not, working in my back property. Um,
How is that coming along now? Because you were telling me a
uh,
few years ago it was
yeah,
a big
yeah,
project.
no, it's an ongoing thing for years, and I'm coming to the close of it right now. I'm getting ready to put up my gazebo, and I got it all fenced off, and awesome views. I live in the foothills out here. You've been here, overlooking the mountains over 4 peaks. Nobody to bother me. Hang out with. I went and saw.
Other than drones.
Yeah, but my neighbor's not selling his property anymore. Um,
You see a
and
lot of
so
concerts, actually. Now, but you're mentioning that, but I see a lot of pictures of Sally of you at concerts.
yeah, we went last night to Mark Broussard uh, at the Scottsdale Performing Arts Center. My wife's helping me out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it was awesome. The guy's from the Louisiana area. It's kind of a bluesy kind of thing. He's got popular songs, but I can't tell you the words exactly. So, but it was a great time. It was our anniversary yesterday.
Oh wow, happy anniversary. I remember, I guess I've known you for like 5 years now because I
Yeah.
remember it was
Nope, 6.
it was just before you got married. Oh, is it 6 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your whole family was at your other house in Huntington. Everyone always asks, why were you kept looking off to the side? It's because her family was there. They
Yeah,
thought you had
absolutely.
some
Oh,
like
that's right. We
mental
were.
health issue.
Yeah, no, because we were getting married.
Yeah, there was people there, and it was just he had just kind of gotten out of the hospital,
Yeah.
and
It's been
and people aren't used to being there watching him get interviewed like that, so it was a little different, and yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I, believe it or not, hold loyalty as one of my higher values in life. And you went and you showed up at the house, and then you went to the ATM afterwards and came back and paid me, which was very nice of you to do. And I've always remembered that, and that's why we keep on doing these shows.
Well, I appreciate it, but I do remember one thing. I saw kind of like the scary side of you when you first opened that door because I don't think you necessarily knew it was me or you didn't know what I wanted or something, and you still
Uh,
had the goatee and everything. And I just remember you looked at it, then I gave you the money, and then you were happy, obviously. But I just remember I caught a little glimpse of the other side of you that night.
oh well, I hope I didn't scare you.
No, you
Yeah,
didn't. You didn't scare me.
I
Although
know.
I don't think I could beat you, but I could definitely take a beating. But I would just remember, I guess, because that area, there's probably some weirdos. You were,
Oh,
you,
that's
People
why.
used to
That's
show up at
why
your
I
door all
moved
the
out
time.
here.
yeah.
No.
But no, that was a fun time meeting you. That was the highlight of my trip. I also met Tito that trip, and I met a lot of other famous people, and definitely you're. I will say it. It's not just because you're here. I said it all the time. You're one of the
Yeah.
nicest people I've met in combat sports.
Oh, that's cool to
100%. Yeah.
know. Yeah, there's a lot of narcissists in this business. Everybody wants to be a tough guy.
You're
Like,
real. You're real. You'll at least say it. I mean,
well, I don't need to get into my resume, but I've been in hundreds of street fights, and I just not even trying to think of. I've been arraigned at least 7 times for street fights, and the last time I got in trouble for because the guy got on the stand and lied and did all this bullshit to get me in trouble. He started the whole fight. But back in the day, people would take a beating and realize, hey, I have a big mouth, and I wrote a check I had to cash, and I, when I was a youngster, I must have been probably a senior in high school. And I went into the wrestling room at the college, and some older guys were in there. Older meaning in their 30s, maybe. And this one guy was a wrestling coach, still alive, and kind of like a high school lore legend kind of dude. And he is like, you know what? He's talking about his street fights and all that kind of stuff. He goes, one thing is for certain. He goes, you don't think it, but the human body can take a serious beating. And obviously, it struck a chord with me. And these guys that run around and talk like they're tough and all this kind of stuff, and just needling me and getting me angry when it's time to give them justice, I would make sure they got it. I would tattoo your ass. And
I believe
all
you.
these and all these comment clowns, all these little narcissist little pussies. Seriously, I read your comments. You guys, your comment negative comment guys, you are the most pathetic bunch of pussies out there. It makes me fucking sick. And I know my wife and everybody's, oh, you can't respond to them and all this. These guys are bozos. You know, some of them are dumb enough to leave their return thing to look back to see who does it. They are the most pathetic little bitches that you ever seen on, and it's like, no wonder why these guys are doing this stuff. You know, back when I was younger, I'd love to find them and knock on their door and give them a nice welcoming hello. In their own house. I would too, and it's probably been done before. I would never admit to doing a crime, but I could imagine that probably has happened before. And guess what? Those people those days, they never did it again.
Did you fight a
Keyboard
police
warriors.
officer in UFC? Somebody's asking. I don't remember that. Speaking of your,
Steve Jenham, he was a cop. Right. Yeah. You know, so, you know, I'll drop a think. I was just thinking about this. You know, back in the day, so I pretty much started the UFC, and obviously the Gracies did, but they owned 1 through 5. So it was a free for all UFC 6 when the music producers would let it run on, and so I showed up, and everybody thought I was going to get my ass kicked because they said, "Oh, you got big mouth," and wait till a martial artist do to these guys, to this guy, and I'm like, "Yeah, you just wait to see what happens." And these guys, I forgot. I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this? Do you remember?
you were talking about the UFC guy where you fought the cop.
Okay, so back to the cop. So
and UFC 6 because
yeah,
it
the
was the first one
UFC.
without the
So
grossing.
when it went into the UFC 6, and all these guys were fighting, and that's what I was going to tell you. So if I lose my train of thought again, tell me, remind me about MMA. So I went there, and I was to fight a cop. Now, so McCartney's excuse is that, oh, it was boring. Well, it doesn't matter if it's boring in those days. It was two guys get in a cage and they fight. Whatever, like the Gracies laid on their back. That's not really fighting for me, but that's the kind of stuff that they would do. And so Jenham was a cop, and so he was like 220 or something, and I'm not some big guy either. So I'm obviously at that time benching over 600 pounds, so I was a strong guy, so I could handle the bigger weight guys. But he was like 220 pounds, and I slammed him into the cage, and I grabbed his head, and I put my forehead in his ear and started ramming it through the fence, and it pushed the whole cage out, and it made like an imprint of his, like a basketball stuck in there. And that's another rule they made, that when you can't use the cage for a weapon kind of thing. They made all sorts of rules for real fighting, which I brought to the UFC. And so he fought and he left, and then I go around to fight Severin. And so Severin is there, and he's like the wrestler, and he's like I've probably been in the room with, oh, I'll just say conservatively, at least 10 wrestling teams, if not more. And the heavyweights are big baby Hueys. They go out there and push each other around like forklifts, and they're not mentally hard guys. And the rest of the team are all little midget guys that aren't tough at all. They are to little other midget guys, but the badass of the room, if he's a badass, is the 190 pounder and the 180 pounder. And so Severn is a big soft heavyweight, and he goes out there and he takes me down. And McCartney sits there and says, "Oh, well, you're laying on your back, not doing anything." Well, if it was Gracie laying on his back, or not me laying on my back, but me on top of Gracie, you wouldn't have done anything. So this time, Severn's on top of me. His same logic, but now, and this is just a couple fights later in a different show, Severn's on top of me, pounding on me. Why didn't you break it up then, John? Well, you don't make sense. Unless you're not a corrupt crook, breaking me and Oleg up, then you're a corrupt crook for letting a Severn lay on top of me. And seriously, I coined the phrase, I thought I was being raped by Freddie Mercury. He's on top of me in his little goofy underwear they had on, and he's slapping me, and with that mustache and all that kind of stuff. I was like going, I was inside my head like, okay, I was looking at him, okay, he's not doing anything, put us on our feet. Never happened. And so I was the show back in those days. So that fight gets done, and there's a whole tournament still to go. Guess what? The whole fucking arena leaves. Well, there's a couple more fights. No one cared. They just wanted to watch me fight. That was back in the day. And so McCartney, he's foul in his logic one way or the other. Pick and choose. Oh, and he'll just talk about how the moon's made of cheese with his red herring. And so like I said, he's a corrupt crook, now a liar. And that his little podcast buddies talking like Campbell McLaren is somebody to talk about. And he's going to talk about me drinking at a bar by myself. Why? Not only is he talking about Campbell McLaren, this little goofball, he's sitting at the bar at a table in the restaurant with Tito Ortiz. Who hangs out with that dumb guy? Really? That's all I'd say.
Somebody's bringing up your fold-up knockout. I'm going to see if I could show that with a shared screen, because if anyone hasn't seen it, it's worth watching. Because I know that was probably one of your favorite knockouts too.
What's that? Was it
this? Someone's asking about the fold-up knockout. Let's.
Yeah, that was Nelmark, but you know who that was supposed to be? And it would have been the same thing. You know who that was supposed to be?
Who?
Ken Shamrock.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. Ken pulled out.
Oh, he didn't want to fight you?
I don't know. His hand hurt or something like that.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So where I didn't want to show too much. Okay, yeah, there it is. He bends in the most mysterious way there. But he's
Yeah.
totally out.
He was just like Shamrock, both all juiced to the gills. Um, obviously, I don't know if I comment on how bright he is, but that's what goes down.
So is that the reason officially why you never fought Shamrock? He pulled out of that fight, and then there just was never
Three
another opportunity.
three different times he pulled out. Or
Oh,
one
what
of
were the
we
other two?
one we were supposed to fight in an independent show, and he tested positive for steroids. And then you know, these things are. It'll come back to me, and I'll tell you. I can't pull the other one up, but it's a similar case of like what? Hold on, I almost had it. I think, yeah, I can't tell you. I think it was a one I fought Ferrozo, where they set me up with that one. They all these guys, right? And they used to run the show. They like these dilettantes, these jackasses that think they know about fighting, and they break down your fights and they say, "Oh, if you was only in shape." Listen, dumbasses. The reason why I'm fighting is because no one else would fight, and there was like 2 days' notice, and they would call me up because I would fight all the time because I didn't care about winning and losing. I remember, I think it was Maurice Smith. Um, I think it was the first time I fought on short notice, but the rocket scientists, Fry and Severin, were represented by this Persia guy. Um, and so they called up and said, "Hey, we're not going to fight if you don't pay us X amount of dollars to the," and this is not written in stone. This is how I understand it. And they said, the Persia said, "Oh, we're going to go to Japan if you don't let us fight for the title." I guess Coleman was going to fight for the title against Maurice Smith or Fry, one of them. I think it was Coleman. And so the phone rings 2 days before the fight goes down. He goes, "Hey, man, you're not going to believe this." And I'm like, "Yeah." And they go, "We don't have anybody to fight, and the show's coming up. We need you to fight." And I'm like, going, "Yeah, well, when is it?" And they go, "Like 2 days." And I'm like, "Yeah, I like you guys. I'll show up." I go, "All you have to do is one thing." And he goes, "What's that?" And I go, "Just tell the people on TV that I came in 2 days out of shape. I've been sitting in a bar for the last month and a half drinking, and I'm not training. I'm not doing anything. I'm here to fight because I want to give. I don't, to be honest with you, I wanted to fight and extra money, but I didn't give a rat's ass if you guys watched a fight or not. But they didn't have a fight. I saved their ass for their show and the whole 9 yards. And all they had to do was say, "Hey, Tank wasn't training, short notice, he showed up." You think they said a fucking word? Nada, nothing. I'm like, "Oh, that's how you guys play." And so it was always a little bit of a gimmick of how can we get over on them. They they would do that, and Severn, or not Severn, but Fry, Coleman, I don't know, those three wrestler guys, they were all going to go to Japan. I guess they went to Pride, and did their thing right after that. But I remember I was in the back before the fight, and Jeff Blatnick, the Olympic wrestler, he was an announcer, and he kind of understood me better than most of the people. They all want to uh, paint me with a broad stroke that I'm some fucking Yahoo brawler that doesn't know anything and I'm a dumbass. And Jeff could see past all of that. And he'd go out to dinner with me, that kind of thing. He'd go, Tank, what are you doing, man? And I'm like, I'm fighting. What do you think I'm doing? He goes, but your record. And I go, I don't care about my record. And he goes, you mark my words. Someday you're going to care about your record. And I'm like, yeah. I go, it's about the battle, man. I go, these are tournaments. They're not, these are not like fights with a record and all that. I go, don't you understand? It's about the being a warrior and fighting and getting in there. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's about the battle. And he goes, I get you. I know what you're saying. He goes, but mark my words. Someday you're gonna regret it. Anyways, so here's another thing that John likes to bring up. And that is, I told John, I go, hey man, I get tired. I go, this guy's a kickboxer, and I don't want you to stop. I go, I don't want that guy to sit back and just pot shot me and kick the shit out of me. I got about a minute and a half in my tank, and we'll see what happens and go from there. But don't be shy about stopping the fight because I'm not going to take a beating. And he goes, all right. So he holds that in his little red herring way. He's like, oh, well, he told me to stop the fight. I knew he'd say this. Totally not even the same subject, not even the same argument. And he brings that up all the time. Nothing to do with it. I told him to stop it because I wasn't in shape. All these dilettante wannabe fighters out there, all these guys that want to be tough. Not only do they go take a jiu-jitsu class and say, oh, jiu-jitsu makes you tough, they also think they're going to sit back and put a tape on and watch me get in there and fight and go, oh, he doesn't know how to wrestle. What I'd do is I'd shoot a double leg and then I would do this and do that, whatever their specialty is in their head, and make that shit up. And at the bottom line is, they don't know their head from their ass. And the bottom line is, I was out of shape and there would be no fucking show if I didn't show up and fight. And do you think the promoters said anything? You think they said a fucking word? Nope. But I understand. And so that cloak, if you will, hangs around my neck. Oh, he never gets in shape. You try UFC 6. You try fighting over 14 minutes after having two fights with the two biggest guys ever fought in the show. You try doing that against some guy that Oleg, and then they totally worked me over on that fight because they couldn't have a fucking street fighter win the whole show.
Yeah, that's a very thorough explanation of that. You were mentioning Japan. Dusan wants to know, I mean, you're talking about others fighting in Japan. What are your memories of Japan?
Oh, I loved going to Japan. There's one other thing I loved more than going to Japan, and that was leaving Japan. Um, both are true. I mean, I had a great time there, but by the time you fight and it's done, you're ready to go home. It's not it's not all that in a bag of chips. But all these yahoos, they're all esoteric, try to act like, oh, Japan, this and that. It, who cares? It's just Japan. It's like not a big deal. You go there, whatever. I thought I was going to starve, but because I'm a very finicky eater, and thank God they had awesome breakfast, best Western breakfast that I had, and I obviously didn't starve there. And
Did the Yakuza take you out for any meals?
no, I wasn't. I was not aware that they were connected with the UFC. I know Pride was, but I don't know if they
Yeah.
were or with the
They sometimes
UFC.
were fans of certain wrestlers or fighters and would find you, but maybe you didn't go there enough to get a
No,
relationship.
no, you want to know what happened there? Um, I can't trust me, and all the shit I've been through, strokes and all this stuff. It's just amazing that I'm here talking, much less anything else.
You
But
died
back,
5 times on the operating table.
that's the absolute truth. And strokes, 5 strokes too. Anyways, I've been walking around for years like a zombie, but I'm in the back of my head, it kind of glitches, but I get it on. And then these negative comment people at CTE. Listen, you dumbasses, you wouldn't be alive. So I don't even talk about you commenting on my intelligence, especially on the Rogan podcast. When I got there, it was all quiet, and the studio was like low key, humish, and I kind of tend to mirror what my surroundings are, and so I was kind of slow talking, but I was being careful too. But the thing is, um, this guy that was acting like my manager called me up one day and he said, "Hey, these guys in Japan uh, are starting a show there, and they want you to fight in it, and they're willing to pay you good money." And I'm like, "Yeah." And so we went to, it was back in the day when they had Bob's Big Boy. And so we went to a Bob's Big Boy with these 3 Japanese guys. And they offered up a pretty sweet deal. But I, once again, I have principles and morals, and I adhere to them. I signed a contract with the UFC, and I wasn't about to walk out on it just out of principle. I wouldn't do something like that. And I said, "Hey, thanks for the offer. It's a great thing, but I can't do it." I actually went home thinking that it was a possibility from our little luncheon meeting we had. And then I molded over, and I couldn't live with myself by being that way. And so they got Coleman, I guess, to fill in. And I had to fill in for Coleman against Maurice Smith. All back. And it was this Persia guy. He was trying to squeeze him for money. All these guys that fight, in the back of their minds, they must fancy themselves as like some business guru kind of guys, like they're movers and shakers, and they're the fucking greatest products in sliced bread when they're nothing but money grabbing jerks. Anyways, I didn't I that was the fight I filled in. So I didn't go to Pride. I didn't go to Japan. I fought in Pride later, And at that point in time, I was just collecting checks. I didn't really care. The you know my you know meaning in life kind of went away. Not living, but the meaning of things. It wasn't like a passion any longer. Kind of like an old girlfriend that's hung around too long.
I get it. And we're going to have to do this again because your book is now not only an Amazon book where you can order it, but it's also an audio book. And I don't know if you want me to listen to all three of them and do three, or we want to do one after each one I listen to. But I'm looking forward to listening
I'm
to
telling
your
you,
book.
I don't want to blow my own horn, and I'm not going to, but I wrote every sentence of that book, and all these more negative comment clowns. Oh, he didn't write it; somebody else wrote it. Uh, come, come. Yeah, and I didn't get a degree in history because I'm an idiot. Oh, as a joke to McCartney, I was on the road, and I think I was in Montana, something like that. So at the bar, and this guy was writing a book on the UFC, like the encyclopedia of the UFC, and he goes, "So what about this letter after McCartney tried to get you kicked out of the show?" That's another thing that McCartney tried to do. Him and his wife tried to leverage their popularity against mine, which was no comparison. We're gonna have the Officer Big Mac against the actual food. Anyways, um, he goes. Uh, that threw me for a loop. Oh, so the guy was asking me about it, and so Bob, who used to own the show, comes up with this idea that I'm going to write a letter to them of apology. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, can you just write a letter of apology? And we'll give it to John, and he'll trust me. He'll take it, and he'll back off of this stupid thing. We kind of need him for a ref. And I'm like, going, he's just a referee. What is wrong with you guys? He's not like some fucking star or something. He has no specialty in anything. In fact, he's a stooge for jujitsu. Anyways, and so he goes, okay. I was talking about Bob. And so McCartney, I write this letter to him. And I'm not for sure, but I think I wrote it in a blue book from my college days. You'd have to go write blue books for your exams. And so I wrote this most pathetically sick, sarcastic apology letter to him and his wife. And I sent it with a big chuckle and a laugh. And I sent it to the office there in New York. And they ended up sending it to them. And so McCartney was like bragging to this Yahoo that wrote the book. I don't know if he's a Yahoo, but this guy that wrote the book, that, oh, yeah, we got him to write a letter. So he's talking to me. I got the letter. I was drinking a cocktail at the bar there. I didn't write that letter. I go, David Isaacs wrote that letter, who was the officer for the corporation. He went to Harvard. And he goes, well, what? I go, yeah, I didn't write that letter. I go, David Isaacs wrote that letter and put Big John and his wife together. Said I did. And so they got in the biggest huff over that David Isaacs wrote this letter for apology for me when actually I wrote the letter. But
Is that the first time you've ever said admitted to that? Because I know you told me the story, but I don't think you told
yeah,
it
and
to me
that's the
public.
first time I admit to it. Yeah. But anyways, it was pathetically stirred up. Anyways, now I'm thinking about McCartney. So I was listening to, like I've told you, McCartney doesn't know his head from his ass, but look into the Princes from Saudi Arabia. Wherever. I would love to stuff that guy's ass.
I'm going to make that a clip and send it to them because one of them just, someone's asking a question about Mike Tyson. One of them just offered Mike Tyson 700 million to fight Jake Paul in like a 3-minute street fight. They're putting up 700 million to the winner. They got a lot of money to throw around.
Oh,
They might
yeah,
entice you guys.
that'd be fine with me. But so I went on to their little website thing and I left a comment. I said, hey, listen, you guys are all liars. And if you're not a liar, have me on your show and prove that I'm not telling the truth, because you can't. And I left a couple of messages, and then all these people would send me whatever the DMs, like, oh, yeah, how come they never called you? What's going on? Anyways, I was listening, and McCartney is, as I said, he's contributed absolutely zero, and his opinion's worth nothing. If you ask me, what is he an expert at? Anything? Maybe the rules book, but anybody can read the rules book. But so his
Apparently not if he stood you up when you didn't have to be stood up.
oh no, he had snot blowing out of his nose, like a red herring. Who gives a fuck about that? What are you talking about? But so he's like, yeah, I came up with MMA. And like the gloves, I don't give a rat's ass, but I'm the first person to wear gloves. And McCartney made fun of him at the fighters meeting before. And he's his dumb cop voice. Wear them if you want. These guys, they don't even know because they've never been in a real fight. My hands used to get busted up all the time. I go to the wrestling room after a weekend, and I could barely move my hands. I couldn't practice. But so he said he came up with MMA, and his story was that when it started, because that's the holy grail of it. He was there when it started. He was there when they're doing the Gracie Jiu Jitsu commercials, and because you were the big goofy guy in the Jiu Jitsu class. But he said, I was going back to be the ref at the show, and it was before anybody knew what the UFC was. So I had to make a uh, paper and say, hey, I'm going to this martial arts show. And then his boss said to him, what martial arts is it? And he didn't know what to do, so he wrote mixed martial arts. Well, I'm the one that came up with mixed martial arts. Not because he wrote a little slip for the LAPD to look at and go, oh, mixed martial arts. When it was me after UFC 6, everybody wanted to see me. If you weren't there, you wouldn't understand. But I was the show. It was it. There was nobody else. All the other guys could be in the same room I was, and I would be 10 people deep with people going, hey, take this. And they would set up a private room, kind of like autograph signing room kind of thing. and they would set up interviews because everybody wanted to talk to me. And they ask you, well, this is a martial arts show. What's your martial arts? I go, well, I wrestled since I'm 8 years old, but I go, I don't do that. I fight. And it's not a fight. I've done like since I've been 8 years old. I've wrestled all the time. I've boxed for the last 3 years, real boxing in a boxing gym, sparring and boxing with world class people. And so I go, they would go, oh. And I go, yeah, I would mix it all together. It was all of that. I take whatever works. Jiu-jitsu. I would take their chokes and know how they do their arm bars. I know all this kind of stuff. I mixed all the martial arts together. And more than one of these reporters would all go, oh, so you'd mix it all up like mixed martial arts. I go, exactly. And everybody was talking to me, not Big John McCartney and his boss on a piece of paper. Everybody wanted to know what it was, and I would say it's MMA, mixed martial arts. And that's where MMA came from, as well as the gloves. I made those gloves. I cut the post out. It's actually a thick gauge, clear plastic hose that used to be in the Harbinger gloves. I cut the stitching out of it, and I took the tube out. That's all me. But I to be honest with you, I don't give a rat's ass. Woohoo! Whoever invented the was some other guy named Bowen. He was a boxer, wore him. He didn't cut the gloves out so he could wrestle. Why is a boxer going to try to wrestle somebody? He'd want the bar in there so he'd punch harder. And so that and mixed martial arts, that's definitely mine. McCartney had nothing to do with that. Absolutely, he's like an umpire at a major league baseball game. Strike, strike, whatever, ball, foul, whatever they say. See, that's exactly right. He wouldn't even know what he was saying.
And last question here, because you've been very generous with your time. Some fan is wanting to know, how would Mike Tyson have done in the early UFCs? I guess how far would he have made it in the tournaments?
Not very at all, especially no. Not Mike's a tough guy, man. He's a heavyweight champion. That guy's a tough dude. A badass, whatever. But as far as a fight in the street or in the octagon, you stay in the boxing ring. People that have never been in a fight have no idea. You just take him down and it's over with. Hoist Gracie would beat Mike Tyson in a thing, especially if you know all you have to do is dodge getting hit.
Well, Inoki was able to avoid getting knocked out by Ali.
Oh yeah, laying on his back and kicking his legs. That guy, you know what? That guy never liked me. I never.
Antonio Inoki or Muhammad
Yeah,
Ali?
no, I don't know Muhammad, but I seen Muhammad once. That guy's a big dude. I saw him at the LA boxing at the Forum. And he was sitting at the stands or whatever. It was way back before I was even thought of being tagged.
That's right, because Inoki made Don Fry champion at one point. I think Josh Barnett may have been champion at one point, but they never used you in New Japan or any of those Inoki federations.
Oh no, you know what? His son or son-in-law or what have you.
Simon?
Yeah, it sounds about right. He had me fight Josh Barnett or wrestle. I think it was at the Kabuta or whatever the fucking something like that. It was a wrestling.
Budokan.
Yeah, it was the Budokan. And me and Josh Barnett wrestled there. But that time, Anoki came there and he saw me, and he saw me at the LA sports arena one time. The Oleg was doing some kind of worked match, and I was in the stands, and he got all in a huff and I don't care, like, and stormed out of there. And I'm like, oh fuck, fuck. I recognized him, but I had no idea who he was. And then when Anoki was his son-in-law, Simon or whatever that guy was, he saw that Simon had signed me and that I was at WCW to fight or wrestle in this match, the Budokan against Josh. He saw it was me and he fucking about snapped. Started yelling at Simon, like, what the fuck is this? Translation wise. And yeah, so I went and did a match over there for that. It was an interesting time.
Very interesting. And I got to throw this in because I recently got approved for TRT. Technically, they're giving you steroids, but it's based on your testosterone level. Would you take TRT? You've always been anti-steroids.
No way ever. I don't care if I was on my deathbed. Well, obviously, things would change when you're like that. I know that from personal experience. But morally, it's cheating. Like any of the guys that I fought, and I'm not going to name names, they all know who they are, that taking steroids, the majority of them did, are, in my opinion, mental pussies. Once you have to take a drug to be tough, you're not tough. Even if you ponder it, you're like, oh well, I could do this. What? Get your ass kicked if you fucking feel that way, and don't be a pussy and fucking you do your thing with TRT for vanity reasons, and you want to get big and you want to do that. Okay,
That's
fine.
what someone's actually asking you. Like, if you're not gonna fight, but like you wanted your bench press up, that's just not in your books.
No, and I'll get my bench press up. Trust me, I'm just scratching the surface right now. My body, I'm actually feeling so much better, and I'm giving myself, even though I shouldn't do this, but I feel almost back to normal. Not really like I could get out and get down, but I feel I wouldn't want to try me. I'll tell you that. And but as far as there's just no way I could. No, it's not only cheating, but it's not you. It's like I said, either for vanity reasons, like, oh, you want to look good, you want to be a certain way, but like to take them just to be tough, and then what kind of pussy are you
It
when you're
changes
not?
people mentally too, I find.
Yeah. Well, I you know I used a friend's paper in an English class. Um, yeah, it was like a term paper kind of thing, but it was for English, and my friend wrote it on steroids. So I didn't have to make up a paper at the time. I'm like, thank you, I'll use it. So I started reading it, and the first usage, according to my friend's paper, of steroids was by Nazi Germany to make their soldiers more aggressive. And so there you go. You know that little. Some people say that I have a little aggressive, but
Yeah, you wouldn't have been good on the.
you know, I'll tell you a thing. I was at the power plant. A very famous wrestler was running the power plant, and he called me into his office. And at that time, I was just there to learn how to wrestle. And they had like it was like a big, huge gymnasium with 4 rings and all that kind of stuff. And they had a weight room kind of thing. And so I would go work out after prescribed sessions that we have. And I was throwing around real numbers at the time. Um, playing around in the fives. And so all the guys in there were like, holy fuck, what that dude's fucking unreal. And so they called me in because I don't obviously have a steroid body or anything like that. So he calls me into his office and he's like, yeah, hey, Tanker, we're thinking this here. And he goes, we're thinking about getting you on the gas. And I'm all, what? He goes, yeah, we got to get you on the gas. And I go, oh, no, I don't do that. I go, no, sirree, not going to happen. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. It's safe and all. It's like, I don't care what it is. I'm not that kind of person. I don't do that. Very principled person. And I think that's cheating and everything else. And I think if you have to take steroids to be something that you can't be by yourself, then it's fake. And he's like, yeah, okay, so I leave. Well, all these guys that are all in the gym, they're kind of like in the tryout squad kind of thing. And they go, oh, so what'd so-and-so say to you? And I go, he said he wanted to get me on steroids. And the guy goes, are you kidding me? And I'm like, no. I said, fuck no. And he goes, you would be on death row within 2 weeks if you took steroids. And I kind of believe him.
I believe it too from bouncer friends I've had that I've seen on and off, and you can see the difference in aggression and sympathy for people. I think you lose sympathy. But let me guess, was that Terry Taylor?
No.
Okay.
Way old school, way big name. And I'll never tell you, but he's a big name. Big name, big old school, big name, like a guy that pre Hulk Hogan and I would watch and go, wow, that guy's pretty fucking cool. The first time I ever seen professional wrestling, my dad played football with George Catman Wells. I don't know if you know who that is or not.
I don't follow football really.
No, he wrestled. George Wells.
Oh, George Gatsky or something, or
no,
I don't know.
George. He's a big black dude. George Catman Wells, and he was the guy in WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, versus Jake Roberts. Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, well, my dad played football with him in college, so he came out to do some TV stuff, and this is like I'm pre-third grade. I'm just doing it by geography. And so my mom took me to the show. Not the show, it was a TV taping, like on a channel 13, like a small time local channel. And this guy pulls up. I wish to God I knew who it was, but he had like a not carry on, but like a traveler bag, one of those steel ones with like a briefcase.
Halliburtons.
Yeah.
Were they called? All the wrestlers used to carry them, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so I still remember to this day. and he had dyed blonde hair. And he pulled up and he drives through the chain link fence, and there was like a line to get into the studio. And I was with my mom there. And he gets out of his car and he starts yelling at everybody. And I'm like in third grade. He's, you motherfuckers. I guess this is like pre kayfabe, whatever. And he goes running down the fence with it dragging against the chain link fence. Starts yelling at everybody, going, I'll fucking kill you, healing out like crazy. And he irritated my mom to no end. But that was my introduction to professional wrestling, and then I ended up wrestling for the title.
That's a pretty damn cool story. There's so many stories. I'm not even going to get into any more this time. Sorry, fans. Hopefully he'll come back again. I will read this comment though, because we are going to do this. Someone's asking if you would ever do a podcast with Ken Patira. We're working on it. He broke his laptop somehow. We are going to do this. You are not the first person that suggested this. People want to see it.
Oh, absolutely. I like him.
They might kick us off of YouTube after that one.
Yeah, well, worse things have happened.
So, and also, I am going to go through your books, and hopefully, I can talk to you again after that. They are on Audible and Amazon, and I'll let
Yeah,
you
well,
close this off however you want. I hope that these drones aren't Chinese, and we're all gonna die. And I hope this isn't the last time I talk to you. It's always great seeing you and talking to you.
likewise. And I guess it's me now. So Merry Christmas to everybody. Go out and have a happy, good time. And then wind that right into the new year. And we got new leaders coming in. And hopefully good things are going to happen for you and everybody. Merry Christmas.